quarterback.
Oh, there's a goal!
At least I thought he was going to until he blew it.
It's tough to weave any sort of narrative on certain teams. For example, the Cowboys looked like absolute shit last week, only to replay history and massacre a bunch of Indians. Or it could be because the Redskins commit ritual suicide in primetime games. Alfred Morris got beautiful revenge against the team that threw him to the wayside and stomped all over them like an Indian burial ground. The Cowboys may still have a chance at, who am I kidding? Their playoff hopes are as dead as Snyder's goodwill. The Jimmy Garoppolo era has begun in San Fran with handing the Bears yet another brutally frustrating loss. Not only did they waste an outstanding performance by Tariq Cohen, they were also slowly grazed to death by field goals. And not just any field goals, good old Robbie Gould field goals. Yep, the guy Chicago told to fuck off a few years ago came back with one of the worst teams in the league and beat them single-handedly. Bears, everyone in your executive brass needs to be purged with haste. Coaches, managers, scouts, ownership, all of it needs to be fed to the grass at Soldier Field. It's the only way this team is going to progress. Unfortunately, this will not happen until Virginia McCaskey is dead. Doesn't look like it's happening soon enough. What an incredible spectacle to witness. Two absolute tire fires going at it in one totally lopsided affair. I want something interesting to talk about. That's where SeatGeek comes into play. SeatGeek is an app that aggregates all tickets being sold on the web to give you the best possible value. I mean, look at all of these empty seats. Throughout the league, there are people desperate to give away their tickets. This could be you. SeatGeek uses a 1 to 100 scale to grade these tickets. The higher the score, the better the deal. You can also preview where you're sitting for maximum enjoyment, or suffering depending on your city. And if you use the code TREE when you click the link below, you get $20 off your first purchase. If you're in Cleveland, that means you can buy 2 tickets and have enough for a beer to wash down your sorrows. The chance to get the experience of games better than this is at your grasp. Reach it with SeatGeek. I know, shameless is all hell, but it was still better than going through this disaster. Broncos, you're utter trash. Go jump off the nearest mountain ledge, please. Famous Jameis has returned to action in the hopes that he can spark something to keep their famed playoff hopes alive. Jameis was Jameis, but the Bucs' so-called defense couldn't stop a thimble and allowed the Packers to keep their hopes alive by means of the running game. Jameis was also Jameis as he kept to his brutal giveaway regimen. Green Bay may have some good news for once, however. Aaron Rodgers is eyeing a Week 15 return, potentially giving them an incredibly slim chance at the postseason. One can only hope up there. Good job, Titans. You barely beat an injury-riddled team and struggled to get much going from an offensive standpoint. Tennessee will have a winning record and a playoff berth this year thanks to how shit-tier their schedule is. Personally, I can't wait until they get completely annihilated by a real team come January. Games like this make me still miss Deshaun Watson. May have made this game more interesting. Panic mode has set in for the Chiefs. They are desperately throwing everything they've got to right the ship. Andy Reid has finally given up play calling duties in favor of a timeshare, and Kansas City has summoned an old relic in Darrelle Revis to bolster the D. The first item has worked. The Chiefs' offense has returned to form against the Jets. Alex Smith is balling again, and Tyreek Hill is humming along as usual. Unfortunately, the defense decided to self-immolate like Fine Duck. This is a team that has absolutely lost all direction and fell apart to a sneakily good offense in the Jets. They strangled them in the time of possession game, and the Chiefs could do nothing. The final drive, simply a total collapse for the ages, but there's at least still a chance. Oh my God, Jesus, they lost to the Jets. If Blake Bortles played the Colts every week, he would be a Hall of Famer. It showed against them yet again this week as he torched that pathetic excuse for a secondary for over 300 yards. Jacksonville, I must tip my cap. You look to be headed towards a winning record for the first time in a decade. On the other hand, let's not beat around the bush. The Colts are an absolute mess right now, and it looks like they'll need a few years to rebuild everything from the disastrous Pagano-Grigson reign. It can't get much worse for them, can it? It says something when a team with absolutely no semblance of an offense to speak of immediately lays one of the most savage smackdowns of the year. The downfall of Detroit has once again began in earnest as they lied down and had their flesh picked apart by the Ravens. Slow, agonizing torture, even with their shutdown corner Jimmy Smith becoming yet another victim to the football gods. Although there was some semblance of a comeback, you were cursed again with a game-ending injury to Matt Stafford. Pray for a quick recovery. If he is out for a while, your playoff aspirations will implode like the Silverdome. You'd think for a city that gave us the Model T, they'd know how to properly demolish a building. Unless that skill got outsourced like everything else. Buffalo, good news. It's time for you to pay your bi-yearly tribute to the Patriots. Tom Brady is your God King, and you will bow to him in all of his glory. His aura will allow your pariah Tyrod Taylor to turn into a pumpkin and make some really awful passes. And he also got injured, because you can't have a football game this season without that happening. Nathan Peterman comes in and the receivers can't catch the ball again. Bills, you still have one more round of tribute to give. Please accept this with a Perfectian cheap shot by Gronk. But he's so harmless and a party animal, you guys. He wouldn't hurt a fly. Get fucked. There comes a time when a game takes you back to those hard-fought grinds of the mid-1970s. This duel was one of them. I felt like I needed some Sam Spence playing in the background, with Jefferson K narrating me into a trance. A couple of slow-motion runs and tackles, and it's a perfect match. It's unfortunate in these games that one team has to lose, because both teams played that well on the defensive front. The Vikings channeled the inner spirit of Bud Grant and outmuscled the Falcons to victory. It's too bad. Atlanta needed this game to keep up with the rest of the conference, and it may end up hurting them in the future. The prodigal son has returned. Josh Gordon is back in the NFL. Even with a few years of rust, he's still flashing some of that talent he has. Unfortunately, he is on the Browns, and they can have no nice things whatsoever. The magic they had last year did not come to pass, and the Chargers got revenge. I know you may be shocked to hear that the mistake in LA is tied for the AFC West lead with a 6-2 swing, but it comes with a massive asterisk. They've had an absolutely pathetic schedule, and the two losses have come against quality opponents. They've lucked out by playing Dallas without Zeke and the Bills in one of the biggest coaching blunders of the year. They have a few nice pieces, and they may sneak into the postseason by reason of the AFC being pure shit, but I'm not all that impressed. Fuck you, Spanos. This isn't working anymore. It may be reverse jinxing them. I need a new plan. It has happened. McAdoo has won a power struggle and finally threw Eli off of a cliff for shit that isn't his fault. Manning has officially been benched by the Giants for Geno Smith. Fucking really, man? You want to give your team the best chance to win and you're starting Geno? For fuck's sake, the Jets could have told you how terrible he is. You can't say with a straight face that he is a better option. Were you not paying attention to them when they were in MetLife? I get if you want to start Davis Webb a few weeks down the road. See what you've got in him. What the hell is there to see in this? It's Geno Smith! He fucking sucks! Dude couldn't make a good decision if you bribed him with candy on the sidelines. The Raiders, thank you for your ineptitude, as their victory allows them back into the AFC West picture. Fortunately, the Giants had enough of the shit, as Ben McAdoosh and Jerry Reese were derped off of the George Washington Bridge for gross incompetence. Personally, it took too goddamn long to do. The team is now in shatters and looking right in the face of a steep rebuild. Complete disaster of a tenure. A battle between two emerging powers in the NFC turned itself into a classic air show. Cam Newton's F-16s against the B-17 bomber of Breeze. What really turned the tide of the game was the Saints' running attack. Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara have emerged as one of the best 1-2 punches in football. I liked what I saw from Kamara in the preseason, and they've had the city completely forget about the great AP experiment. The Saints have usurped advantage in a surprisingly competitive NFC South. Now these so-called rivalry games with the Falcons will actually have the air of a deep rivalry game. Love it. Remember when the Cards beat Jacksonville last week and they may have turned a corner? Well, reality just smacked them in the face. This came in the form of the Rams defense. Blaine Gabbert looked like his old self, chucking the ball to opposing players all game whilst wasting another valiant effort by Fitz. The Rams win allows them to boast a winning record for the first time in 15 years, further proving that God is a cruel asshole like the rest of us. St. Louis, you have the right to be incredibly bitter. It's a fun and exciting team, but fuck that piece of shit Crunk. He deserves none of this. I'm honestly impressed. The Seahawks managed to shut down one of the most potent offensive attacks in football with a secondary ravaged by plague. It was a desperately needed win for a team trying to keep itself relevant in the playoff picture. Russell Wilson did the rest on both the ground and in the air. The Eagles' win streak has been snapped, but they won't be down for long. They only need a win or a Cowboys loss to clinch the NFC East. For now, though, the 12th celebrate into the night. Off topic, that is a terrible name for a fan base. In extremely unsurprising fashion, Pittsburgh is once again playing down to vastly inferior competition. I should be flipping out for their failure, but I knew at halftime that the Steelers would win. Why, you ask? Because Bungles. In an incredible display of self-destruction, they managed to prove that they are the true kings of the choke job. Behold 173 yards in penalties and piss-poor defensive coverage all night long. What the fuck was this, guys? Why are the receivers dropping everything in sight? This game was a replay of the wildcard game, only this time instead of a sharp knife, they used a rusty dull blade. To think that the Bengals have learned absolutely fucking nothing from that game and kept going with Marvin and the same old shit. It's fucking disgusting. You needed to win this game to stay in the playoff hunt, yet you gave the Steelers yet another undeserved victory, and this trash organization has no one to blame but themselves. Again. Pittsburgh, don't think you're out of this either. Both of you get the glorious reward of back-breaking injuries. Literally. That Shazier injury really stings, too. Please get better, buddy. In due fashion, it's time to dub our lol cow of the week. The entirety of the Chiefs' defensive core, especially after their magnum opus that was the Jets' final drive. First, a pass to Jermaine Kearse caught on third down turns into a 51-yard jaunt because of several missed tackles. After that, the defense stops them in the red zone and forces them to kick a field goal. In Chiefs fashion, they were penalized on the kick and the drive continued. Once again, the Jets were stifled, but Kansas City went full read and were penalized yet again. First down, New York. It took the Jets 9 tries to get it in the end zone, but it gets better. They chose to go for 2, and they failed. If you haven't guessed by now, there was another penalty. Marcus Peters is so salty at this revelation that he chucks the flag into the stands and IRL rage quit the MetLife server. The Jets tried to butt fumble this game away repeatedly, yet you still managed to implode like a supernova and give them 5 extra points. That is an impressive skill all its own.
I'm going to coach this team as long as my key card works. You know, got a great group of players, the coaches, got a great staff to work with. I want to show up ready to go tomorrow and get this thing cleaned up and move on to the next one. I'm going to coach this team until I'm told I'm not coaching this team. So, got to show up. Going to show up tomorrow morning ready to go to work.